Welcome, and thank you for joining me as we continue to explore the path of the seeker. Today, I just wanted to do like a little ceremony to close out the current year, 2018. It's been a hard year for me, full of lots of challenges. I faced a lot of fears and triumphed, and there's been a lot of letting go. And whenever you let go of a lot of stuff, it means you're letting in something new is being created. So, if you find yourself letting go at this time, just remember, and as you let go, you are letting in new experiences. But before you have new experiences, you have to let go first. Sometimes it's letting go of old ideas, beliefs, um, mostly beliefs and ideas. You can hear my little one in the background. Michelle Anne Marie was born on August 7th. She is beautiful. She spent the first 5 days in an NICU. That was very difficult, and I'll talk to you about that in just a few moments. So our little ceremony is going to recognize the four elements. Now, as we went through the sun ascending Sephiroth of the Kabbalah Tree of Life, it was brief, but we touched on Malkuth. And Malkuth is our current level, our area that we exist in. That's where Earth is. And the story goes, according to the Kabbalah, that it received the light too soon, and so it shattered into the four elements. Here's in the background. And so the four elements are fire, water, earth, and air. And you can see fire and air as being the waking consciousness, and earth and water as the subconscious. So we're going to work with those four elements today. Whenever you work with those four elements, you're actually uniting Malkuth into one again. It's a very healing experience. It's not magic. It's simply the rule set that we exist on this level of being, and which is physical material reality. So let's start off with my tea light candle, my little happy one in the background. You can hear cooing. So I chose the angel wing candle holder in honor of my dog Angel, who passed away this year. She was 11. Got a nice little tea light candle glowing in there, lit in there. So Angel was 11 when she passed away. Losing her was closing a chapter in my life before Michelle came into my life. Angel in some ways was like my daughter. I mean, I took her everywhere. She was a real practice in caring for something else, and she was so joyful and so happy-go-lucky no matter what. I mean, she brought so much joy into my life. I got her when I was living up in Big Bear pretty much by myself, which is up in the mountains. It snows, it's rough. It's kind of scary living up there on your own. So I had my dog Angel as company, and I had a 4x4 truck, a Ford Ranger, which I sold soon after Angel passed away. So pretty much this part of my life that started 11 years ago up in Big Bear, that chapter was closed. It was a very independent part of my life, a very lost part of my life too. It was kind of my second time of awakening. My first was in the 1990s, which is back when Celestine Prophecy came out and The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. I mean, it was all allegory, and there wasn't really much meat or substance to what they sold in bookstores, and Amazon didn't exist. So there wasn't much to go on back in the 90s if you had an awakening. So, I mean, it was easy to go back to sleep. In 2007, I got into the whole Anunnaki fear-based concept, kind of conspiracy stuff. And I think everybody kind of started off with in that time period, if they're kind of more of the newer school awakening in the 2000s area. By 2012, I had gotten out of it because I'd found my husband and more focused on money, which is probably why in 2014 my awakening was so rough. Oh, my candle went out. That's okay. So, losing Angel was tough, but in June, that was, selling my truck, that was closing down an era of my life, a very childish area, my 20s for the most part, when, I was kind of wild and free and getting drunk at bars and, doing the stuff you do when you're free and not really worried about anything. I'd been married young. I got married at 20 something, and was divorced by 23. I think that's how old I was when I moved up to Big Bear. My little one's just so joyful. She's brought so much light into my life. It's and joy into my life. It's amazing. She's adorable. So that's some of the stuff that I let go of was that whole era, that old me, the one that was into the Anunnaki and had a truck and had a dog and kind of had a redneck lifestyle, kind of. Although I never really could call myself redneck, because a little bit different. But I've never really conformed to labels. And if you know me already and you've read my blog, you know I'm very anti-label. They're convenient sometime, but very rarely do they actually fit or describe a person. And it goes into way too much groupthink. So, one of my favorites. And so, you know, air is intellect. And one thing I learned this year is intellect is one thing that humanity has way too much of, and it really needs to be balanced with something else. Intellect is what allows people to go to work and focus on being a robot that goes to work and leaves their humanity at home. I mean, think of the frontline workers at a grocery store. Nobody wants them to talk or have feelings or a personality. It's a problem from the bottom up. And I say this from the Master's in Business Administration. It's everybody in the company that is responsible to have morals. It's not just the company itself. But to say, well, it's just business, so I screwed you over because of that. I made the sale and I made, X amount more than I should have because I can. Well, that's not right. But that's how business is right now in our society. It's not about the human element. It's not about morals. People will say it's just business. There's no crying in business. There's no anger in business because, you leave your emotions at the door. We want you to be a robot. We want you to leave your humanity at the door. And that's really sad. So that's all intellect. That's intellect running free without the check of subconscious emotions and empathy. And that's one of the things that really need to change in humanity. And I think we're seeing that with a lot of the movements that are getting, news coverage. I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news since 2007. The next element I want to share with you is water. This is a 3 Sages cleansing spray. I'll put the link to the woman who sells this. Her name's Anastasia. I buy it at the Learning Light Center in Anaheim, California. I love going there. It's a wonderful place. It's really helped me in my spiritual journey because it helped me accept myself and accept my spiritual journey, which has been a whole chapter in and of itself. So, this year, the water represents the subconscious. And it's really from the water, or the oceans of water, or the oceans of death, as they call it, that you emerge in your spiritual awakening. There's also crystals in here, that's why it sounds so wonderful. So, I want to invoke a little bit of the water element. Oh, it smells so good. I like it. It has lavender, eucalyptus, 3 types of sages, cedarwood, and juniper. It's really, really wonderful. So, of course, this is ASMR inspired. That's why I'm shaking the bottle. My microphone doesn't quite catch it very well, but it's an attempt. It's my first try. So, my dreams have been amazing this year. I've had so many prophetic ones that have come to fruition and I didn't even understand. The biggest one happened in October, and the dream happened in June. And I met Jesus in my garage, which is weird, I know. And I was told that a car trailer needed to leave, needed to go. And there were people on the car trailer. It was during this big party. And as the car trailer was pulled out, I saw that the people on the car trailer turned into soldiers. And they were in uniform and they were saluting. And I was like, why? What does that represent? What symbol is that? Why does that need to go? And I didn't know until October that represented work. Because what do you do at work? You wear a uniform. At least in the big corporations where I worked. And people are treated like soldiers. The managers are generals and the employees are frontline employees who act like robots and leave their humanity at the door so that they don't have emotions and they just go through the routine of taking care of customers and pretending they're happy all the time. So I had to let that go. Leaving the workforce was big because I've been working since I was 15. So letting go of my customers who were my friends and my coworkers who were friends and leaving them behind, that was tough, you know. Uh, and at the same time, in October, my cat Monster passed away. He was 7 years old. And I've talked a little bit in my blog about how I'm at the end of one 7 year cycle and starting the new one now that I've turned 36. And seven is the number of humanity. And we have a 7 year cycle when it comes to most of the parts of our body renewing itself. And so you can kind of see patterns in 7 year cycles. And in particular, my cat Monster symbolized work because I got him through the job that I started 7 years ago. He was rescued by a human resources manager. I went to her house and picked him out. So in a lot of ways, he symbolized work. That's how this rule set for this universe works. It's all very allegorical. So when Monster died at 7, it really represented me putting the workforce in that phase, in that chapter in my life closing. So that was hard to let go of. It really was, because work had been such a part of my identity, and that cat was amazing. I mean, everybody's favorite cat. He was just so chill and loving. He was 20 pounds, just pure purring love. That was another thing I let go this year. Like I said, it was a tough year of trials. Joseph Campbell refers to it as the road of trials. The next element I want to address is earth. So air and fire go together because without air, fire could not exist. Fire is passion, air is intellect. What's most neglected in our society is the water and earth elements. Water, like I said, representing the subconscious, and earth also representing the subconscious in our body and our physical instincts. Start off with, this is a stone that I got from my garden. It looks like it's polished. It's not. It's a river rock. My home was built on a riverbed, ancient riverbed. It hasn't had water flowing through it in thousands of years. But this perfectly circular, smooth pebble was in my garden. And I believe it's onyx. Onyx is very good at helping you pull out the negativity and just negating it. Basically, all energy in this realm of existence is recycled. You eat a plant and that's recycled energy. It's recycled in your body. You get an animal and it's recycled energy in your body. I am a meat eater, by the way. I'm not vegan. I do eat mostly vegetables. I only try to eat about 4 ounces of meat per day if I have meat. But I do include that in my diet. But it's all energy. And it's all energy being recycled, just as our body's recycled energy. The avatar starts off as dust and returns to dust. So, letting go of negative thoughts, that was a big theme for me this year. Letting and facing all my fears and overcoming them. When I say overcoming them, it wasn't by a force. It wasn't meeting it and battling it. It was actually acceptance. It was surrendering and believing in a divine order and a divine plan, and that this is all according to a divine blueprint. And that can be hard, when you're in, a situation that's just like one you've been in before. Aside from the sign of 1111 on my door, I really didn't have any reason to, believe that I would walk away from that hospital without going into labor when I went into it in June. And, I didn't. So it's surrendering to the divine will, the divine plan. It's where we go really wrong is when we try to fight the divine order. When we try to create our own order out of what already exists. Nature's fine on our own. Nature finds a way. Life finds a way. You don't have to exert your will over creation because there's a divine will that organizes it naturally. And so you have to let go and surrender and realize that that divine will is, to resist it, it's kind of silly. And to believe that you can fix it. I mean, why would you need to fix something if, there's a divine will? So it was really a surrendering in the moment and knowing that everything is in divine order and trusting. And that's how I got through this year. Next, I want to share with you the courage. This is a quartz rock, mostly quartz. It's a conglomerate, but it has mostly quartz in it. It has the word courage across it. And I want to share this with you because it takes a lot of courage to walk the path of the seeker. It takes a lot of responsibility and honesty with yourself. And that can be really hard for people. We are so used to trying to repress our feelings and hide from who we really are, or have someone else tell us all the answers and tell us who we are. But we only know us. You know, it's just like when it comes to dreams. Edgar Casey said, "You are the best interpreter of your own dreams." And that's because the symbols are, meaningful to you. Take, for example, in my dreams, if I dream about my ego, it's my husband. It doesn't mean my husband's going to do something, it just means that he represents my ego. And if I dream of Francesca Simon from Charting Your Course, um, she represents my subconscious, you know. In a recent dream, her and I were baking in the kitchen, which means, in some level of my reality, I'm making preparations for something, for a change. And it means that my waking consciousness and my subconscious are working together, which is exciting. That's the alchemical wedding, or the alchemical marriage, or the sacred marriage in Joseph Campbell's um, hero's journey, as he identified in the Mono myth. So, and I've said that's part of your, path. That's one of the maps you can use. So, good times ahead. But it does take courage to face all those fears and get rid of that old programming from your family, from your school, from your culture. Let go of all of that and really learn to trust in a higher power, but in an unlimited way, without names or conditions or rules, just trusting to the divine order that happens and occurs in this world. There's a lot of fear in this world because a lot of people don't trust that there's a natural order and a natural pattern that will correct itself. Yet when scientists study chaos, after a few cycles, that chaos naturally goes back to an orderly state. So there's no reason that humanity needs to exert their rule or their will over nature, or to believe that humanity is unnatural, because we were created just as everything else on this planet was. We might be a little bit out of balance, but that can be corrected. And that's what this whole reality is for, is a series of corrections, a series of lessons, a series of learning things. And that brings us to the next stone I want to bring out, which is our smoky quartz. And this shows the darkness and the light in balance. This is a beautiful piece that shows what happens when darkness and light works together. You do not need to have a battle within yourself between your subconscious and your waking consciousness. You can coexist and create something beautiful little vessel with both darkness and light. And that's what this represents to me. And subconscious has been represented by women, the symbol of the women, the archetype of the woman. What's really represented is subconscious, the water. And, the earth is also part of the women, because women are fertile and they're the ones who give birth to the material avatar. And, women are coming up. And that's why we see so many female heroes. We have Wonder Woman. We're going to have Captain Marvel in the beginning of next year. We have a female Doctor Who. So women as a hero is really coming up into society. And it was funny because I was reading Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey recently. And he taught at an all-women's college. He taught mythology there. And one of the women said to him, I want to be the hero. It was such a foreign concept to have a female hero. He didn't know how to respond. And that's the limitations with the hero's journey as he identified it, is because he was very stuck in the patriarchal way of viewing things. Patchy's here. It's that silver sheen. This has been polished, but that's actually natural to the rock itself, okay, to the stone. And I'm sharing this with you because there's always a silver lining. Yes, I gave up my truck, which I loved and was part of my mountain girl identity. But I got a Chevy Cruze, which is what I always wanted. And it has all the bells and whistles. It has the warm seats and the leather seats. So that's why it has seat warmers and electric windows and the keyless entry. It's awesome. It's a beautiful car. And, somehow my kitchen got remodeled this year. It wasn't intended. I called a contractor to build a fence. My husband wanted to build a fence in August while he was off of work for 2 weeks. He wanted to be there to watch construction workers. The fence was too much money, so we ended up remodeling my kitchen, which was exciting because I hated the kitchen in this house. It had tile that was uneven. Someone did a job on it themselves. It was a home done job, and all the tile was uneven, and I couldn't keep it clean, and the grout was disgusting. So my kitchen was remodeled, and it's beautiful, and I love it. I mean, I really love it. And I have two miracles, no matter what. I let it go a lot this year, but man, every time I look at my mom and my daughter, especially when my mom's holding my daughter, I'm reminded that I saw miracles this year. My mom in March was in a major car accident, and she should have died for all intents and purposes. I got a message at 3 o'clock in the night. Well, my husband did from my dad saying, she's gone basically. We went to the hospital because I wanted to say goodbye to her while her body was still warm. That might sound really cold, but a long time ago I got over my mom possibly passing away. She's been in the hospital a few times near death. She has COPD, emphysema, so her lungs are weak. So when she gets pneumonia or bronchitis or anything like that, and the flu can turn into that, she gets really sick. And there's been 2 scares before, so this is the 3rd time. And we get to the hospital and see her laying in the bed, and she does not look like she's dying. And it was funny because when my husband woke me up from the dream that I'd been having, I had dreamt that she was on life support. When I went to bed that night, she wasn't. I had a dream that she was on life support and that she asked me to adjust one of her medications. So I was kind of on alert when we got to the hospital because I just had this dream, just woke up from it. So I knew one of her medications needed adjustment. I didn't know what it was. And, I told him, my dad was like, she's gone. Don't try talking to her. I gave her a kiss on the forehead as my husband and I decided we were going to go have breakfast because I needed to talk to him without my dad there. He was very emotional. Like, it scared him so much to almost lose her. I mean, he really does love her. And so, told my husband she's not going anywhere. But, we went back to the hospital room after breakfast at Denny's. But, we get back there and found out she was on morphine. So I told the doctor she's allergic to morphine. She's like me. You need to get her off that. It's making her sick. And as I was there, she woke up. Now she's on a breathing tube. She's not supposed to be awake. But she woke up and she started talking. Well, trying to talk around the breathing tube. Because also there's a feeding tube. But she looked like she was puking, and that's how I discovered she was on morphine and told them they need to take her off. She had a broken rib and she was trying to puke. I just can't even imagine the pain she was in. That just doesn't work. And if she'd puked wrong and it went down the wrong hole, it could have choked her to death. It would have gone down her breathing tube, basically. So it was a very dangerous situation. And the doctors didn't have any idea. My dad didn't know she was allergic to morphine and that was making her sicker. So that was the medication that needed to be adjusted that fixed it. She doesn't remember me being there. But it was just really interesting. So the fact that she's alive, because like I said, a doctor told her that she ever put on a breathing tube, she never get off of it. She's off the breathing tube. She's not 100% where she was before. She's more oxygen dependent now. But she's alive, and she saw my daughter. And Michelle wasn't supposed to happen either. I had 2 doctors tell me she was impossible. I almost dropped my stone. And she's here too. And the next crystal I want to share with you, our mineral, if you wish, is this calcite cluster that my dad actually harvested from one of our claims. My grandpa has been, he was prospecting on those claims years and years ago, so it's been in the family for decades now. And calcite's good for clear sight as well, because you really need to be able to see clearly in order to appreciate where you've been. Now, I said I've let go of a lot of things. I've let it go. My little one is like scratching her little toy that she has right now. I've been letting go. Like I said, I let go of my dog Angel, who was 11 years old. Let go of my truck, which I felt was part of my personal identity. Let go of my cat, who's 7. Let go of working in my workplace with my whole network of coworkers and customers who were friends. Let go of my best friend for the last 3 years. Let go of a lot of stuff. and a lot of fear along the way, facing those fears, facing those shadows and overcoming them, letting go of the fear of losing Michelle, between the hospital stay when I almost went into premature labor and the 5 days that she spent in the NICU because she had some initial breathing problems. Um, it all worked out. I just had to surrender and let go of the fear. And that takes clear sight. That takes going, okay, well, that's happened before. Then I can change this. We can make this different. And it takes a great deal of faith. And that's the one thing I have this year that I didn't have before was a great deal of faith, rock hard faith that just, no matter what happens to me, I know I'll survive. I'm an eternal spirit that will go on, no matter if this body dies or not. This vessel, this avatar, is destined to return to dust. And, my spiritual self will continue. I met my higher self. Very interesting experience. Very humbling experience. Totally different view of life than I expected. Considers life on Earth Disneyland. These avatars are like rides, and each life is just incredible and an incredible opportunity for growth. And in this life, I've grown a lot, a lot. So that's the calcite sword. Got that for clear seeing. Plus, it's such a big, huge piece. I just love it. I think it's beautiful. So seeing my mom hold Michelle when I almost lost my mother, and I almost lost Michelle. I mean, I almost went into premature labor, and she was in the NICU. I mean, it was like reliving what happened with Lothan, but with different results because I had faith and I surrendered to the divine will and to the divine order. And I knew that everything was in divine order. And if it was in my best intention and the best intention of humanity, I'd have my daughter and I'd have my mother. And so I have my two blessings. And, there's wonderful things in the year ahead, I'm sure, but that's been my year. It's been a tough year. If I was in any other state of being, I don't think I would be doing so well. There's just no way. And I could have used this year to, be my excuse for a lot of things. But I chose the path of responsibility, the path of the seeker. And I learned my lessons. I was tested and tried in every way possible. I failed those lessons in 2014, but I got them right this year in 2018. Well, that is it for this Traveler's Notes. Sorry about all the edits. I do have baby and it took me all day to record this video. But have a happy holiday. And thank you again for joining me on the path of the seeker. Thank you for being a courageous, brave soul. Because we need every seeker and every healer on this planet because there's so much work to do. And have a fantastic day. Bye now.